Taloha lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up, 8 new MPs elected amid low voter turnout in Tonga. Also,
There was a little bit of hysteria, I guess. People are a bit fearful, so they were running.
fire breaks out at COP30, and will the Flying Fijians be able to defeat Spain? Eight new MPs have been elected to Tonga's parliaments in the general election amid a continuing decline in voter turnout. Results released by the Electoral Commission overnight show 6 People's Representatives and 2 Nobles Representatives among the new cohort of MPs. I spoke with our Tonga correspondent Kalafi Moala about the results. Hey, malolele, Kalafi. First, we have some big names back in the mix, as well as some notable new MPs. What did voters decide?
Well, I think there are two things that happened out of this election. One is that there were the incumbents or people who have been in parliament who are, the perception is they're reliable, so they got elected and re-elected rather. So 10 of the 17 people's representatives were re-elected, and the fact that there were 7 new ones, that says a lot. That means that there was some dissatisfaction with some of the MPs that got replaced, and the new ones, it's quite interesting. There's a lot of highly qualified people that brought in, like for Walau. Of the 3 seats in Walau, 2 were 2 of the seats were new MPs, and one was a medical doctor. The other one is a doctor, with a PhD, so highly educated people. And in Hapai, both seats of Hapai were also replaced. So it's quite interesting to look at the seats that were replaced. One thing that was also kind of impressive was that we have one of the new MPs is a woman that was elected in one of the Tonga-Tap constituencies. So, yeah, but I think overall, as you look at it, there's kind of, for me, that observes these elections previously and so on. I'm kind of satisfied with the kind of quality of people that are in.
Yeah.
But now, of course, the big one is so we're looking into the appointment of a prime minister and the selection of the cabinet.
Yeah, before you talk more about the selection of the Prime Minister, could you talk us through about the female MP? What's her background?
Yeah, she's got education, a teacher, and then quite a community activist, very involved with the community. This is not the first time she ran. She had stood for parliament in the 2021 election, didn't make it. She is also a strong pro-democracy advocate, part of those that were, pushing for change. So, and she's still quite young, not one. So it's quite something, Fane Fituafe is her name. And there's a lot of hope and expectation for a lot of things to be done, not only in the constituency, but she'll be part of the, parliamentarians that are going for national development as a whole.
And so what's next in terms of electing a prime minister, a cabinet? The 26 MPs will have to decide on that, right?
That's correct, yeah. And there are, from the people's representatives, there are a few that are would be highly qualified to become prime minister. There's a lot of talk about the current prime minister, Dr. Eke. There's a lot of support for him, and also even the previous one, previous prime minister, Siaosi Sovaleni. He has got strong support and, of course, a lot of experience behind him. in government. And then you have others, actually, like representative for Tonga Tapu number 1, David Tapuloka. He's an MP. He's an interesting one because when he came into parliament in the last election, one of the first things after being elected he said, I will not accept any position in cabinet. He will stay out of cabinet because he wants to give his time to the work and development of his constituency. And so he's done that. But that's the past 4 years. So he hasn't declared yet whether he's going to be a candidate for prime ministership or whether he will accept a cabinet position. But he's another one that's a very strong one, very practical man, highly qualified. He comes in from the background of a businessman with a construction company. And the other thing about him that I think that's a major part that could have him play a key role in our national unity. He said he's a cousin of the king.
Oh, wow.
So his mother and the king's mother are sisters related. Well, they're both passed away now, but so he's related to the royal family. And then he's also, in that sense, related to the nobility. And his father was a medical doctor, a very strong community man, a commoner. But you have in David Tapuloka, in that one guy, he's got relations into the royal family, nobility, and the peoples of Tonga. He could be a key person to have leadership in the country, to be able to bring together the royal family, the nobility, and the commoners to be able to work together for the future.
Oh, he sounds like an interesting figure. All right, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand also that there are two nobles who are positioning
That's
themselves.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
How likely is it that Tonga could have a noble as a prime minister?
Very likely, indeed. The two nobles that are, would be candidates are Lord Tuivakano. He was the first prime minister that was selected after the reform of 2010. He was the first prime minister in what then was and now a more democratic Tongan. So he's also very experienced, one of the more matured nobles and member of parliament. But the other one, more interesting, and he's the one that I think more likely to become prime minister, is Lord Tuivakano. He's been a speaker of the House, younger noble, and very sharp, legal background, and he has performed very well as a speaker of the House. So...
Sorry, you mean Lord of Whakawhanua?
Lord of Whakawhanua, yes.
Yeah.
He's been the Speaker of the House up to now. He's still the Speaker of the House. So there's a possibility there. But there's a message behind having two nobles that have stood up and put up their hand for prime ministership. I think what they're basically saying is they're not satisfied with what has taken place in the last two governments. And simply because, not because of anything other than the fact that the people's representatives have not pulled themselves together in unity to select a leader and move forward. And so the alternative, therefore, is in putting up their hand and saying, we could have a noble to bring things together for these next 4 years before another commoner member of parliament take over. So that's at least that's the way I look at it. But that's very possible. That's very possible to happen.
You said earlier that with the new MPs in the mix, it's a reflection of people's dissatisfaction with the previous MPs or government. Will the dissatisfaction also be reflected in the low voter turnout?
Well, definitely. I think the low turnout, there are two factors that affected it. One is is that there are a lot of Tongans that have been registered that are overseas. They say that there are close to 5,000 Tongans that are overseas with seasonal worker projects in either Australia or New Zealand. So that's a factor. The other major factor is that the country has been experiencing a major fuel shortage crisis, the fourth in just a little over a month. And because of that, it affects people's ability to travel. It affects a lot of businesses. You know, you go to a petrol station and there's a long queues waiting, and then the petrol station runs out of petrol. And then people that have been queuing up for 2 or more hours, they go back home disappointed. So the election, for that happening, during the election doesn't become a priority at all, which shows you that at the end of the day, the kind of politics that takes care of people's basic needs is the kind of politics that really affects people in their everyday lives. They don't care about the election. They don't care who gets in
They just
at the end. But they care about the fact that they cannot travel or there's no enough petrol to share. So, but those are two factors. People away overseas, a lot of them at this time, and also the fuel crisis hasn't been resolved up to now.
A large fire at the venue of COP30 in Belém, Brazil, has forced participants to evacuate. It comes as the UN Climate Conference gets into the pointy end, with only one more day of scheduled negotiations. Caleb Fotheringham reports.
Thousands of people are attending the UN climate meeting, including world leaders, and all who were in the venue were forced to evacuate. The head of Australia Pacific at Greenpeace, Shiva Gondan, who saw the flames, says the fire was at one of the pavilions.
There was a little bit of hysteria, I guess. People are a bit fearful, so they were running from one side of the building to the other to exit, and then the Secretariat asked everyone to evacuate, obviously through messages, etc., because there's no system that you can utilize as a sound system to announce that fire.
The fire has burnt through the roof. There's one more day scheduled for COP30, but Mr Gondan expects negotiations will be delayed significantly while the fire situation is assessed.
And because the roof is open, Belém is known for heavy rain and tropical torrential rain that falls every day. If they don't cover it, that building will be flooded as well.
Pacific Ocean Commissioner Dr. Philemon Manoni says the primary call for the region has been consistent over the past 2 weeks.
The 1.5 degrees target is non-negotiable according to the PCs, and it is a point of negotiations that the Pacific will continue to negotiate for.
Meanwhile, a new study has Pacific leaders and civil society accusing Australia of undermining regional solidarity on climate change leadership. Dr. Elizabeth Hicks, an environmental law lecturer from the University of Melbourne, who was quoted in the report from Fossil Free Pacific, says Australia could be moving against the advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice that found failing to protect people from the effects of climate change could violate international law.
We've seen that Australian executive governments, both under Liberal and Labor governments, continue to approve new fossil fuel projects. And industries receive significant subsidies. The most obvious example would be the recent approval of the North West Shelf gas project extension out until 2070, most of which is for export and not Australian consumers.
Tuvalu's climate change minister, Maina Talia, who is also in the report, says Australia cannot claim being a friend to the region while advancing fossil fuel expansion that threatens the Pacific's survival. Mr. Talia says the Pacific is united on a fossil fuel future and Australia must listen.
The world's largest Indigenous education conference, otherwise known as WIPCE, has left attendees in Tamaki Makaurau inspired, connected and renewed in purpose. Indigenous communities came from all over, including Hawaii, Cook Islands, Australia and beyond. Coco Lance was there.
More than 3,000 Indigenous educators, community leaders and knowledge holders gathered throughout the week in Aotea Square, hosted in partnership with Mana Whenua, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. Despite arriving with different languages, traditions and experiences, attendees say the kotahitanga, the unity, was felt everywhere. Renowned Kanaka Māori educator and longtime Whipsy Council member, Dr. Noinoi Wong-Wilson, says no other gathering matches Whipsy in scale or spirit.
Whipsy is one that is really based in that ability to be face-to-face, and that, I think, is a whole level and dimension that you cannot replace. And so we can talk to each other, and we can share with each other what our experiences are and what our thoughts are and our struggles that we go through and our successes as well. But being face-to-face with people is really the native way. And there's other dimensions that are involved when you're face-to-face that way that communicates, I think, better what our spirit is all about. And so that's what you see, joy.
Wong-Wilson says that in a world increasingly moving towards online engagement, meeting kanohi ki te kanohi, or face-to-face, remains at the heart of Indigenous learning.
We stay in the joy, we stay in the sunlight, and if you walk up and find one door closed, you just go to the next one, which is open, right? So nobody's complaining. We don't have anybody, that feels like that things didn't go their way. I think we all know what it's like when we live in villages and when we live in communities, and that's what Whipsy is. We're a large community of Indigenous Native people who bring our ancestors with us and sit in the joy of being with each other.
Mahialani Taituila Foraga is among those who travelled from Hawaii, part of a delegation who presented on Awa biopiracy, which explores the appropriation of Indigenous knowledge and Kanak experiences in academia. She says the conference has been healing and energising for the group.
Mana is being reignited in this space and being around so many amazing scholars and people to learn from, but also it just has been so, there's just been so much aloha and reaffirming our hope and our healing, and this is the type of spaces that we really need each other to reignite that in a time that our countries are not really supporting that.
AUT representative Momoe Fatialofa says the experience of being surrounded by thousands of Indigenous people is rare and powerful.
It allows us to share our stories, to share what is similar between our different Indigenous people, and how often can you say that you can be surrounded by over 3,000 people from all over the world who are Indigenous in their spaces.
Aboriginal Australian educator Sharon Anderson travelled from Darwin. She says even with so much diversity, the shared foundations of Indigenous identity have been unmistakable.
And when you look around, in culture there is difference, but we all have the same culture, Doesn't matter where we come from, we still have a culture, we still have a language. We still have our knowledge, traditional knowledge that connects to our land.
The next conference will return to Moana Nui Akiwa in Hawaii in 2027.
Another action-packed weekend of Pacifica Sporti is in store for teams competing in different events across the Pacific and Europe. Football continues in Suva and Port Moresby with the OFC Futsal Championship and the Melanesian Cup respectively. In rugby union, Fiji and Tonga will be trying to secure wins on tour ahead of the 2027 Rugby World Cup draw in December. And joining me is our senior sports journalist, Iliesa Tora. Bula Ili, football fans in Suva have witnessed some exciting matches at the OFC Futsal Men's Champions League. What's the latest update from there?
Bula Vinaka, Maloto Lava and Talako Lava. This beautiful afternoon, OFC Football Men's Championship League in Suva has been exciting. There has been some very good matches, some good matchups, some upsets. And the story that has come out from Suva the Waikato Rapids from New Zealand, qualified for the final, even with one game to spare. They beat AS PTT 5-2 in their match day 4 game, winning all their matches. And they are now top prospects or top favorites to win the final and win the title. Defending champions, New Caledonia's ASPTT, after having suffered that loss to the Rapids, have a very slim chance. And although they won over Gulf Comara 8-1 in their game on Friday afternoon, they basically could be out of the running for the final. Vanuatu Southern Legion have a chance to qualify for the final. They had a big 13-2 win over Gulf Comara in one of the other, one-sided game that was seen in Suva. And then the host, Suva Futsal Club, suffered a 5-1 loss to Matak FC. The story is the Rapids of Waikato having that opportunity, and they look like to be on their way to winning their first title in their debut tournament at the OFC Futsal Men's Champions League.
Okay, we've also got the Melanesian Cup happening in Port Moresby. How is that tournament shaping up?
Defending champions Papua New Guinea are in the finals of both the men and the women's competition. They look very promising. They have been consistent throughout the week's matches. And Papua New Guinea in the women's competition proved too strong for Solomon Islands, winning 5-0 in their semi-final. And Fiji beating Vanuatu 3-1 in the other semi-final. So Fiji and Papua New Guinea facing each other in the women's final. And in the men's competition, the PNG team defeated Fiji 2-0 in the semi-final. And Solomon Islands beat Vanuatu 2-1 to line up a return clash in the final between these two teams. Solomon Islands had beaten Papua New Guinea earlier in the tournament, and it'll be interesting to see how the Solomon Islands take this game. And of course, Papua New Guinea will be trying to defend their title and hang on to the Melanesian Cup title for another year.
Just moving away from football now to rugby union, the Flying Fijians face Spain in their third and last tour match. Does Fiji have any hopes at all of winning that game, and what must they do to get that win?
No, the Flying Fijians had lost 2 games on the run. They lost to England, they lost to France. A lot of people thought they should have won the game against France, where they had come up and tied 21-all. But then now they have Spain on Sunday morning in their final tour game. They have the chance to win. They should be able to beat Spain. But that all depends on how the team goes about doing that on the field. Head coach Mick Byrne has made 7 changes to the starting lineup, and he told the media that this is the opportunity for the players named in the match day 23 to prove themselves. Spain, of course, hasn't really made much progress in rugby across in Europe. They are still in Tier 2. They're still developing, but they also play consistently when they have their top players, some of their players that are playing in the different competitions across Europe. So Fiji must get into the game early, be consistent, win the possession, make use of that, and hopefully they can, claim that win when they meet Spain at 5 p.m. New Zealand time on Sunday.
Well, they've been the strongest side out of all the Pacific Rugby Union teams. And we've also got the Iliesa of Tonga, who are playing this weekend. Who have they got, and what is the update from the Tongans camp?
Yes, the Iliesa of Tonga are playing just one test on this tour. Although they had a warm-up game against an emerging Scotland side earlier this week. They beat the emerging Scottish side 19-12. But they play the main Scottish team, the national team, in the one-off test match in Murrayfield on Monday morning. Coach Tevita Tuipua said in that warm-up game, they tried to test different combinations and even had the situation where they played only 14 players to try and see what they can do if one of their players get yellow carded or sent off with a red card against Scotland on Monday morning. He says that their focus is just trying to get their combination going because most of the players that play at the Pacific Nations Cup Series out of this tour because they're busy with their clubs and they have got other players who have come in and replace them, and they will try and work out combinations. Of course, this building up to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. He is confident that they will be able to match Scotland, and Scotland, of course, coming off losses to Australia and the All Blacks and Argentina, and they would be wanting to win at home. So interesting game. It'll be interesting to see how Tonga can handle Tier 1 competition against Scotland, and we will know that on Monday morning.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, soifua.